Join us as we do a complex repair of that hole in the transmission tunnel.
Our concern is this is an interesting blowout, like the drive shaft came off or something, blew it out from inside the tunnel. It's time that I got this hole taken care of in the transmission tunnel, or gearbox tunnel if you're European. So, when you saw from the photo that something bad happened because it was punched out from the inside, but then both sides of it along this flange and on the other side of it had been pounded in, like they tried to fit in a floor pan that was oversized, expecting to be cut to the right size, but they just went for it and slammed it in there. So anyways, here's my process. I've laid in the floor, as you can see, because the floor very nicely holds the contour of this flange that it sits on, right? So I'm gonna cut this piece first, about a 1/2 inch thick, typical flange, right? Then I'm gonna make a piece, because from the images that I've seen, it basically changed the shape of this area here. It stands proud, not too far, maybe a 1/4 inch, 3/8, somewhere in there. It's not that big a thing, actually. But what's tricky about it is it obviously starts at this shape on the bottom and then turns into a flat. So by the time we're up in this area here, it's darn near flat. It's raised out, but again, it doesn't have this contour anymore. It's just like a, flat. And then what I'll do is, after that shape is done, is I will just make a little piece from here to here, a piece from here to here, a piece from here to there, and there to there, that just welded around the edge, that are angled out like 45 degrees, and then just weld this whole assembly together. So that's the plan. Let's see how it goes. Step 1 is trace a parallel edge to the blue one, and then cut this piece out here. Alright, so here's the shape that I'm going to cut out. Let's transfer it onto the sheet metal, so let's cut this out. Alright, step 1, maybe step 2 is done. Cut the shape, fits pretty good. So now I'm going to take a flat piece, roughly this shape here, this trapezoid, and then transition it so it's got that funky contour on the lower edge, but then ends up being flat and about maybe a 1/4 inch from this periphery here that you see. So about where my finger's tracing, come up, yeah. Let's have fun beating that thing into shape. Alright, so here's what we're gonna do. I cut a piece of 2x4 quickly to the same shape as this. And now I have a surface. I'm just gonna literally lay a flat plate in here and bang it with my trusty hammer to get it that shape. And that should do it. The plate will be about this big. The bottom portion of it will absorb this contour, so to speak, and it's going to deform because of the stretching in the material. It's not going to be perfectly flat on the outer edge, so to speak, but we'll just have to deal with it when we can get it. If it's too crazy, I might have to cut a dart or a pleat kind of cut into it to relieve some of that deformation, but it all can be cleaned up after the fact. It'll look great. All right, so I got, probably 90% of it. Some of this you can beat into place while you're welding, but you can see I've got the contour. All right, so that's that phase of it done. Now the problem is, I was only beating in this area here, right? You can see, but notice that it deformed all the way out to the end here, right? It's got contour here, and my part around here needs to start flattening out so that this whole area is flat. So that's the next thing we got to do, is kind of lock that shape in. So I'll clamp it to that wooden buck I made. So it's got to kind of hold that, and then I'll just kind of start beating it here. And that's what I was telling you. It's fighting, you're compressing all the molecules basically in this area. It wants to stay this shape, and you're smashing it into a flat. So things will tend to go out in other areas to allow you to do that. That's why I said I might have to end up cutting in a dart, which is just a cut somewhere to relieve those stresses. We'll see how it goes. All right, so I've clamped my plate into the buck in these key positions. That will hold that in place while I beat the hell out of it, trying to get that other area flat. Not sure what to do here. Try starting here. I guess somewhere in here is where we're going to try to start the transition. As you can see right here, this is gone. That's where it's just that molecules are too tight. You're gonna have to put some sort of relief in here or do something to relieve that area. But the rest of it should be okay. It's gonna be dimply in the end, and I don't care. It's under carpet and sound deadening, all kinds of stuff, but it will be the shape that we need, which is the critical aspect. Got to go with what's important.
It looks like that repair patch is starting to take form.
All right, so after some gentle persuasion, I now have a plate that follows the goofy contour of the floor panel, but then ends up being flat near the top. The transition is kind of in here. So we'll clean it up a little more, just to keep the comments down on what a hack I am with banging on metal. And then I'll do the welding along this edge. What am I gonna do next? I don't know. I might weld the edge, or I might cut the trapezoid shape into this guy. We'll see. So I'm gonna start by drawing the shape on it, and then I'll come off of that shape, 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, and then cut this trapezoid out. So I've just laid it in the hole. I'll grab my pen, can't do it with one hand, and then just trace the shape. The outside is the shape from the hole, and then I've come off about 1/4 inch. So this edge, this inner edge, is the one I will cut to. So here's our assembly. It's held in place with a magnet up here, but you can see there's the bottom piece, and then this inner piece. So I'm gonna lean this piece, the one we just made, out, so it stands about 1/4 inch proud, starting, maybe here. All right, folks, here's this piece at kind of 70% prep work. I'm going to now weld this. I think it's still hot. No, it's okay. So now we're gonna weld this. I'm gonna take the floor pan out, and I've marked right here, so I know where this piece goes. And I'm going to weld that to the existing structure. Then I have kind of some leverage to get it into its right position, right? Because you can kind of bang it and bend it once it's in place to register it, and then I'll start welding in those side pieces. Alright gang, I've clamped the new part in based on where the floor panel said it should be. And just notice how far this is out of position. So I'm gonna have to force that in so this flange and that flange are continuous. Similarly on this side, for down. This side's gotta go in like a ½ inch, nowhere near as bad as this. But I knew this side was terrible. So where that's clamped in place is where it needs to be at the end of this exercise. So what you didn't see me do is I've drilled my holes for plug welds, and that's what I'm going to start to do now, is get this guy solid onto the cross member and then bend the tunnel into it, and then it'll all be good.
Don't forget to hit those buttons.
Alright, so I've plug welded this in now, and then I've welded it here and here, which means I had to pull this and this side of the tunnel in to meet it, but that also fits with the floor, so we're good. I know the floor is going to fit in here and hug this corner, which is awesome. And if we look at this from different angles, like, you can see what's going on. It starts at the bottom and comes up and ends up being planar here, which is what we've got. But look how much other contours in here. There's a slight curve this way, which I have some of it. Yeah, some of you can see it right there. And then at the top here, that is parallel to this edge, so that's good. And if we look straight down, I got about a 1/4 inch, maybe 3/8, which is, it's a guess, but that's the best I can do from looking at the photos. And then similarly, we've got that distance, and then it tapers down to flat. So the piece that's coming in here, where my finger is, actually twists. It starts flat, and then it's still a flat piece. It's like a Mobius strip. It twists as it comes up, and then joins at a picture frame angle right here. Similarly here, and then that'll just be a rectangular piece and welding in there. I've got the first piece cut. This is the one that goes here, because that's easiest to cut, and plus it will hold this thing rigidly as I make all these other complicated shapes. But this one's pretty straightforward. But you see how it's going to come together and be a raised panel like it's supposed to be. But I really just don't have anything to go off of except one photo that I could find that kind of shows it from a distance, so you can kind of see that there's a relief there, but really hard to find. Alright, so I got the first one tacked in and ground down a little bit. I've got the tape over this next piece. You can see it. You just put some tape on it, and then you run the side of a pen or something around to get that sharp edge cut into it. And that'll be the template for this next piece to put in here. Remember, it twists as it goes in here. So we'll just form that by hand. It's easy to do. And then we'll tack that one in, and then we'll do the same process for these. I won't bore you by showing that same process with the tape, etc. And then we'll weld her in, and it should be done.
Thanks for watching, folks. We appreciate it. Keep following us on this journey.